How do you sort out the so-called jargon from real-world practices that work? Do the members of your organization find some business or technology advice utterly confusing? Welcome to Real Talk with Sam Holcman. In this program, we set the record straight, and in terms that business people and technology people can understand. Now, here is your host, Sam Holcman.
Welcome to this edition of Real Talk. My name is Sam Holcman. Thanks for joining me. The topic for this particular broadcast is, unfortunately, an article that has gotten a lot of people's attention. It's gotten my attention, and it's that ransomware has wiped out the access to a majority of, get this, a cloud provider's customers. So the cloud provider was subject to ransomware, in other words, hacked. And as you'll hear in just a moment as I go through this, they decided to not pay the ransom. And all of these customers have lost everything. Let me repeat, as you'll hear in just a moment, everything. So being a little bit nasty, so much for cloud security. Now, there's going to be people out there who say, well, this is a small organization, a big organization. There's going to be a lot of wells, wringing of hands, and all these other things. Here's the bottom line. If you want to get a lot of money and you're an evildoer, a robber, one of the best places to go to get money, if you're an evildoer, is to try to penetrate a bank. You know why? Because there's a lot of money there. Okay. And here's what we're seeing now. These evildoers, computer evildoers, are saying, wait a minute, if we hack into a cloud service of any kind, big, small, or otherwise, we're going to be able to get a whole bunch of organizations that are going to put pressure on this provider to do something. In other words, pay the ransom. Now, why this organization didn't is a different story. Let's move away from the buts to recognize what is going on. And what this company said is that they essentially now have to start over and rebuild its systems that are cloud support systems because they're so nervous about where this stuff could be. And all, again, of the customer data has been lost. It's impossible to create the data, and what was of interest is that the secondary and tertiary backup systems that they had were also infected by all of this. This included emails, websites, IT services, all of these things that are essentially cloud native to the organizations that were using this. So they're starting over again. New name servers, web services, mail servers, all of these things that you have had as something that you have outsourced to people are now being affected, as they see it. They believe that what happened was they were physically moving servers from one location to another, and they believe that some of those servers had dormant malware on them. And when they were essentially hooked up to the new location, that became activated. But of course, that's a bunch of guessing, and they said they'll never really know, and that's why they said there's only one thing they can do, which is completely strip all of the software, do essentially a clean install of everything, whatever that means. In other words, where they're going to get the backup for that information. There's a lot of questions that are being asked about this whole thing. So the primary was lost, the secondary backup was lost, the main activities were lost, and what is frustrating is they believe that the actual data is still on the servers. They just can't get to it. And of course, they said they've had multiple organizations, third-party experts, look at this and say, whatever this ransomware environment and malware environment It's just not penetrable. And of course, the last question they have is, how did the secondary and tertiary backups also get infected by this? So, in summary, what are you going to do? Well, I know what I'm doing. And that is, I'm making sure that and people say, well, how can you do this? Well, I'm going to make sure that I have a different type of backup that is not dependent upon the same system I'm using for the services that I have. And of course, I'm going to close the loop. That means I'm going to test that backup to make sure it's clean. Just a word of advice for all of us that have believed that all you got to do is put this stuff in the cloud and you never have to work and think again in your life. Not so. I hope this helps. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then.